Välkommen allesammans! Bindrunes. Finally making a video on this. This is a big question we get asked about all the time. So I'm using this video to answer a couple good questions from Patreon and clear up all the horrible misinformation out there online. Guys, if there is one thing that has more misinformation out there about anything Norse, it is bindrune. So we're just trying to clear these things up here in a quick little basic video. So I'm not an expert on the runes. There are a bunch of people on YouTube and authors who are a lot better in the linguistical sense than I am. And there are even other YouTubers who are more experienced with runes in a practical sense. There's actually quite a big community out there in the past 50 years of people have really experimented with runes and their uses and magical uses, if you want to believe in those things. I haven't played around with that as much myself. But the absolute bunch of dog shit that is out there online, it's so bad. The bar is not exactly high. So I know the information in this video is going to be better than 99% of the rest of the things you find online, but just be aware there are a couple experts on this subject, and I can put those links down below, people who know a lot more than me about these things. So first, bindrunes. Really simply, they are simply runes that are written on top of each other with no space in between in a way that makes it legible. That is the vast majority, that is all bindrunes are. Second most important thing that people need to know is the word bindrune or anything like it is not attested anywhere in the Old Norse texts. Although the Scandinavians definitely used bindrunes at the time, in pagan times, they didn't call them bindrunes, and we don't even think that they had a word to refer to them. The earliest mention of anything of the sort comes from the old Icelandic word bandrún, and this is, the word doesn't even start to come up until the 1700s, long after Iceland became Christian. However, the Icelanders, unlike back in Scandinavia, they actually kept a tradition of using runes for magical purposes. And writing too, you see here we have a couple of runic inscriptions from Iceland dated to the 1600s, saying a Christian prayer. Back home in Scandinavia at the same time, they had runes in the folk tradition, and they had the word rune or rune, but it meant something completely different. Long story, I won't go into that in this video. So where we traditionally know about bindrunes comes from, at least that word comes from the Icelandic tradition, and to be fair, the cringe pagans are gonna like this one, but they are actually attested in some of these sources, these grimoires from the 16 to the 1800s. And they have some of the meanings that you might find online today. So there are actually a few ones online that are historical, buried amongst the thousands of other load of garbage that you will find. I'll list a few of those grimoires down below. You can check out if you like, but there's not many of them that are written in English. And also remember that these are from long after pagan times. So back to the main point of this video. What were bindrunes like in pagan times? What do we know? Well, bindrunes, first of all, they were a lot more common in the elder Futhark, even though those inscriptions are quite a bit fewer than the younger Futhark. Now, if they were more common in the younger Futhark, I might have said that they maybe developed and were used more of a time and grew into the 1700s, and those bindrunes that we see there were actually, pagan originals at once, but that's not what we see. What happened with bindrunes is they were a lot in Elder Futhark period, they lessened in Younger Futhark period, then they disappeared for a few hundred years, and then they became in use again. So that's why I'm a believer that the actual use of bindrunes through symbolism and magic does not really date back to pagan times, but I am open to other viewpoints on that, and I will cover a couple of them here. But the most important thing about bindrunes that no one ever brings up, bindrunes during pagan times, The vast majority of cases are simply used as abbreviations for letters in written text, combining 2 or 3 letters after each other. Sometimes even full words listed as a bindrune. But there's absolutely no symbolic meaning to any of these. Okay, in these cases, it is simply a way to save space on the runestone or amulet or whatever you were carving it on. So they combine a few letters together where it might fit. Okay, just picture this. Picture I'm a Viking living 1,000 years ago. I'm the only guy in town who knows how to write. I'm the only one who is literate. Someone hired me to make a runestone with runes for their dead father. And I'm doing this, chiseling, and I'm chiseling 1 letter and it's taking an hour. And then I finish, okay, on to the next one. Oh god, there's 3 whole more sentences to write here. Oh, this is gonna take all day. Ah, fuck it, I'll just add a little extra mark here on that rune. Booyah, now it's 2 letters to save some time. And besides, there's not a damn person around that can actually read what I'm writing anyway. So that's really as simple as it is, guys. In the vast majority of bindrune cases, it's just a way to save space when you're writing out sentences and language. Sometimes though, sometimes, not often, I'm talking probably less than we can count on our fingers and toes, it does seem that we find bindrunes on some sort of magical objects designed to have some sort of meaning or symbolism. It's debated a little bit whether these items were magical, but I definitely believe that they are. Some of these runic inscriptions, I mean, just look at these. Some of them are complete gibberish. It's not any text resembling any written language. I mean, there's no other explanation that these runic combinations could be for magical use. That's just my opinion. Or possibly they could be mantras to chant or be recited, like we have in similar things around cultures around the world. But anyway, here are a few actual bindrunes from pagan times that were actually not used for language and may have some sort of symbolic or magic function. The most common one that most of you have probably seen before is the triple tyr or Tivas rune. We find this on quite a few inscriptions. Here is the Lindholm amulet. Here is the Selan Braktaret. We have it on the Kilvestone, and we have quite a few more amulets with the triple or even more tiered runes on there. And scholars have suggested that these stacked tiered runes go back to the poetic Edda poem Sigurdrifumal, where Brynhildr teaches victory runes to carve, and you should invoke the name Tyr twice. This description doesn't exactly line up with the archaeological finds that we have of the stacked Tyr rune, but in my opinion there must be some sort of connection or vague symbolism here, and possibly the Tyr runes meaning victory. I actually have tried this out and have found some success with it, but that's not to be spoken about here. We have a few more bindrunes here that are taken on a silver knife from, a silver knife mount from Anglo-Saxon England. We don't know what these bindrunes together mean, but it's definitely not any language, so we think it's for some sort of magical purpose. Another is on the Undli Braktaet, as you can see here. It reads Gagoga, which is not a word in any language, of course, so we think this is a magical bindrune. And this is where a lot of people think the modern bindrune Gebu Aoya for good luck originated, but that's not quite right. It would originally mean something like a gift of ash tree, of God's gift of ash tree, something like that. Interpret it however you like. Just like all these at the end of the day. The Kragahul spear shaft also has a very similar example of these bindrunes. I'll go over one more that we maybe have the most clear understanding of. There was a wand, a magic wand made out of pine tree, dated to Viking Age Denmark that was found. There's no photos for this one, I'm sorry, that I could find, but the source where you can read about it will be below. And on this, it was a whole sentence written. 9 naud runes laid on a black stone and sent out to sea was to heal a fever, apparently. So this is the clearest text that we actually have that gives even instructions as to a multiple stacked bindrune could have been used for. We also think that the account from Egil's saga is related to this, where Egil carved out 9 naud runes on a drinking horn to avoid being poisoned. So possibly 9 naud runes, or however many, could be used for health-related issues. That's about all I want to go over in this video. There are more. There's just nothing that we can be 100% certain of the actual symbolism and function of. So again, the vast majority of bindrunes are just used as abbreviations to make written language easier. There are some that have symbolism and magic function, but as to what bindrunes actually mean, your guess is as good as mine. So really, you can knock yourself out, do whatever you like, have fun, experiment with bindrunes, use them, I don't care. I would say though, be careful who you learn from. If you go on Pinterest or Reddit and someone is telling you to write a bindrune to help Odin fix his car or help you with gay sex, that's probably not the best source to learn bindrunes from. And guys, runes are serious business. Carving the wrong ones can lead to harm, I will say that. So you need to know what you're doing, and I will put the links to some books down below of people who I trust at least. Just be aware that at the end of the day, it comes down to personal experience and reconstruction. There's very little that we know from the old sources. So that's all. Hope you enjoyed the video. Vi ses nästa gång.